to have a woman who worked me to death. Hammers in my pocket and a foot was on my neck.
You made a blues record.
Yeah.
What was Terraplane? Was that a car first, right? It was a Hudson?
It was a car.
Yeah.
It was a Hudson, and it was a really fast, really affordable car that gangsters liked because it was fast. And of course, it ends up being the title of this record because of a Robert Johnson song called Terraplane Blues, and which I did record Terraplane Blues. It's not on the album, but I did record a solo version during these sessions. And it will be, I always try to put something out special for Record Store Day in April every year. And
that's so old school and great that you do that, by the way.
It's just, look, it's who my audience is. My audience doesn't download all that much, but it's one of those things. And thank God, because I still, And we're going back to vinyl. My home base format within a few years, I'm consciously moving towards the home base format being 12-inch vinyl with a digital download as part of the package.
Yeah.
Which we do now, but that will be, because CDs are going to go away.
Yeah.
And I'm old. I've been through all these formats. I mean, my first album wasn't even available on CD until I sold a certain number of copies. Yeah. CDs had just started. There are 8 tracks.
There were 8 tracks. I was going to say,
there was that. No doubt about it. There were a few. There were lots of cassettes.
Yeah.
More cassettes of those records than this. But it's our record store offering this year is going to be my version of Terraplane Blues on one side of a 10-inch single and Robert Johnson's on the other side.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Which will be kind of cool.
And the storyline for Robert Johnson's song is basically, hey, who's going to be driving my Terraplane when I'm not around? Right?
Yeah, the car's a metaphor for something else.
Something else. I wonder what that is.
Yeah.
So. And so in that sense, there's some consistency here.
Yeah, no. The blues has largely been, at least on the surface, about sex rather than love, and I don't think that's because there was no love involved. It's because the people that were writing the songs were more comfortable talking about sex than they were about love, and they were largely men. And and I tried in some of these songs to kind of update them a little bit to the point where. They almost become in this. It's mainly just because they're archaic, but they become sort of misogynistic if you're
not careful.
Yeah, if you're not careful. And I tried. I did this to write new songs. So I worked as hard on these lyrics as I have on anything I've ever written.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the trick. Is that one of the things about studying the tradition and paying attention to who came before you is that when you come into this format, into this style, with the knowledge that you have about how to do it right, that puts a lot of pressure on getting the songs right, getting the form right, getting the sounds right.
There's no doubt. And the blues, like the great things about the blues are about songs just like anything else. I mean, the reason Robert Johnson wasn't because he went to the crossroads and sold his soul to the devil and became a better guitar player than everybody else. He was a good guitar player, but there were guitar players that were as good as he was. But what we know about Robert Johnson is these songs on these 2 sessions that he did became the template for the blues as we know it. And there really wasn't anything that predated most of them that he borrowed them from. He originated most of the forms that nearly the blues as we know, it's based on one Robert Johnson song or another. Right down the line.
It's pretty remarkable. He was really tuned in.
I mean, I'm sure, and as far as him selling his soul to the devil, the first person that said that was Skip James, and those guys were jealous. I'm sure people thought the same things about Bob Dylan when he showed up in the Village in '62. So,
just not about his guitar playing.
Yeah. I think he was a pretty damn good guitar player if you listen to those records. I don't know. I think he was a great singer and a great guitar player.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you just didn't hear that. But I'm serious. I mean, he was just, you heard a speech at the Grammy at the Music Cares thing the other day. Yeah, and the thing when I thought about,
there were things about it. He seems, it's in those moments that Dylan seems human and it's like, no, because this guy invented my job and then took all the air out of the room, and everybody that does what I do has been struggling with it ever since, because he was that much better than everybody else, and he still is. But when you go back, he wrote that speech, he wrote it down, and he went there and he basically read it. And man, what I thought when I saw the transcript the next day, because I wasn't there, I was out here doing this, and I read it and I thought, man, he can write. I mean, whatever his insecurities that showed up in it. And he thanked a lot of people that I thought it was really cool that he thanked a lot of the people that really were there for him in the beginning too. So
it was great insight. But I think about those guys, and Robert Johnson is one, and Bob Dylan is one, where they're tapped in. They shift the world around them.
That's genius. That's the two most misused words in the English language are awesome and genius. A genius is not somebody that's really smart. A genius is somebody that does something so well that it becomes something that never existed before in their hands or in their mouth or in their heart. And that's what genius truly means.
So Bob Dylan clearly, as you say, created your job and was a great mentor. You had some others, Townes Van Zandt, Guy Clark, Lightning Hopkins.
Well, that's the thing about the Lightning connection. I saw Lightning and Mance Lipscomb in the same room at the same time about 3 times. And Townes knew him really well. Guy spent a lot of time with Mance. Used to go out there to Navasota and because Guy was a hardcore folk singer when he started out. Guy used to show up at gigs with a banjo and a 12-string guitar and a 6-string guitar, and he wanted to play the blues is what he really wanted to do.
This, for those who are listening, is mostly around Houston when you were there after you left San Antonio.
I got there kind of at the end of a folk scene. That the Guy was already gone and gone to California, and when I was in Nashville by that, he'd gone to California and then on to Nashville. Townes didn't live anywhere anyway, but Houston was one of the places he came through, and that's why I went to Houston. But I also, I took, it's where this attachment to the blues comes partially from there. I was in a blues band when I was 13 years old, just because the place I lived in San Antonio, everybody else was listening to country music and beating the hell out of me, and a few of us just became so polarized. We were listening to Butterfield and Canned Heat and Electric Flag and the first Shuggie Otis record and the first, and then I went to Houston, and all of a sudden I meet Rocky Hill, who's Dusty Hill's brother. Rocky's gone now, but they were in a trio called American Blues, and Rocky got in a little trouble in that rhythm section. The Moving Sidewalks, which was Billy Gibbons' first band, everybody in the band except for Bill got drafted and went to Vietnam, and Billy was 4F, so he didn't go. And he needed a rhythm section, so he ended up with that rhythm section. That became ZZ Top. So the blues to me is,
That's a bluesy story.
It is. And anybody that thinks that Billy Gibbons is not a blues man is missing it. Yeah. He's that on the hoof, no doubt about it.
Well, I just think, again, it's kind of inspiring, I think, for us to be around people who find that balance between really doing their homework and really studying and really paying attention to what came before, but also not being derivative, finding your own voice, finding your own way of making a mark, making a sound that sounds like you, that absorbs all that stuff, digests it, and that's hard to do. You think about people who really work at their craft, really work their skill. They get to be top of their game at their instrument, at their whatever it is they do.
Yeah, and then Billy's a good example. He's kind of what he does is lightning really loud, and he saw it, and he just turned it up louder. And the blues is psychedelic because of when I learned it. I learned about the blues in 1967 and 1968, and it was pretty psychedelic. So it's just one of those deals. Just the way that is.
That's the way that is. Well, you soaked it up. Hey, let me ask you quickly about acting. I know you had that stint on Treme, you had The Wire, you've done a bunch of stuff. Are you still doing that at all? Acting?
I am when I can. I have this day job, and it makes it. I have to turn stuff down, and I read for a part, and just recently that kind of broke my heart. But it's I miss stuff sometimes it's because I'm just not available. But this I was available for. We found out about it just in time. And Jonathan Demme, called and wanted me to come read for a part opposite Meryl Streep. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. And when I got the call, I was in Idaho, and I'd been fishing all day. And we were touring, but I fish when I'm on the road. So I got back down, and they've been frantically trying to get a hold of me, and I got a shot at it. It was because I went and I read after lunch, so I went in and other people were reading for other parts, and they were all reading with Meryl, and so I went and we had lunch. They ordered lunch in, and I had lunch with her and Jonathan. Jonathan and I go back a ways. He did the Rich Man's War video, and I've known him for a while. We both collect Tony Fitzpatrick's art, and we read the whole movie. So I spent 2.5 hours with her, and read the whole movie. And at first it was like Jonathan's deal was like, read this, don't try to worry about the characters, just, and don't, I was off book. I'd learned the whole movie. And he said, no, just read it. I just want you to read the words. So we started doing that. And when we start, she's doing that. And then about halfway through it, I look up and I realize, oh, this train just took off, and I was holding on for dear life. And I read the whole movie with her. And then, I left there not knowing whether I was going to get there or not. And I guess I was considered because it was about, 3 days later, and they were getting ready to shoot in 10 days. 3 days later, I got the word Rick Springfield got the part. And, it was one of those things, which means I was too young for the part. So he's older than me.
The silver lining.
I'm only 60. So.
Well, Steve, you live in New York. You have an opportunity to do all this stuff. Just thinking about, Jon Stewart just announced he's stepping down. You're going to consider that gig?
What I would love. What I would love to do if I had the time. If I didn't have to tour so much, I wouldn't mind having a real radio gig sometime.
Yeah.
That I went to work every day, or at least once a week, or something.
Yeah.
I do a show that's once a week, but I tape it. I did my show day before yesterday in Austin because my satellite network has a studio in Austin there in the theater where Austin City Limits is filmed. And James McMurtry has a really great new record out, and he happened to be around. So I went in and did a show with James. And, I love doing that stuff. There's a new movie, by the way, out that I'm in that kind of went straight to DVD and pay-per-view called The World Made Straight. And if you want to see me be a good guy, don't go see it, because it's not a comedy, and I'm really a really bad guy. But it's me and Noah Wiley and Minka Kelly and Jeremy Irvine, the kid that was in War Horse, who's really good, and Haley Osment's in it as well. And that's out, and you can order that at home or in a hotel.
I'm still curious about, like, if you had a late night talk show, being the sort of radical socialist.
I'd get fired is what would happen.
You'd get fired, yeah. But how long would it take, and what would happen first?
Well, it's funny. I'm doing my last appearance on David Letterman's show on the 23rd, and because David's done in May. And, I have a long history with that show. The first time I was on in 1988 when Copperhead was out. First time I was on The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson was hosting it, so I'm dating myself again. But long relationship, friend of the program, as they say, at Letterman. And it's a big deal for us. We're all kind of, the whole band, all of us have done it together for years. But it's like, there was two record cycles where I did not get on that show. For the first time in my career, I didn't get any national television when The Revolution Starts Now in Jerusalem were out, because John Walker's Blues was the beginning of it. And it wasn't that they didn't want to book me. The network was.
John Walker's Blues, for those who don't know, is a song that you wrote about John Walker Lind.
Right.
And it created a controversy.
Yeah, it was about I have
Taliban.
A 20-year-old boy at the time, and he was 20 years old. And, my first reaction to that was, for some reason, oh my God, he's got parents and they must be sick. Their kids turned up over there, and he turned, the first time I saw him, he was duct taped to a board on CNN or something. And nobody else was going to write it. And I just that's kind of my job.
But you didn't get on the show that time, because after that record.
I didn't get on any shows. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Trust me, Sheila and them would have booked me, but I don't think anybody could. I think everybody was afraid of going anywhere near me.
But for that reason alone, may you someday have your own late night talk show, because
well, I had a music show when I was on Air America, which was kind of interesting. There were only two music shows. I had one, and Chuck D had one.
Yeah.
But my radio show, I talk a lot. It's not all talk, but I talk quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's just my tendency. So.
Yeah. Well, we're glad it is, because we need independent voices who actually have some experience and can sort of back up what they're thinking about and talking about with some actual knowledge and facts. That's handy, and not everybody does that.
Well, it's one of those things. There's stuff that comes to you, and you got to pick your battles, and there's an issue out there if you want to go out and grab one, and everybody can make a difference. It's one of those things. One of the big one for me is becoming more and more. I have a son who has autism, and that's an environmental issue. That is something in our environment. It's too many people. It's 1 in 85 kids being born. It's 1 in 50 boys. There's been no epidemic like this. It's not vaccinations. And I know this for a fact. John Henry was vaccinated, but he's in a school with 45 kids that have autism. And I know personally 6 of them that were not vaccinated, and they're in worse shape than he is. Older dads, that broke my heart when I heard that. That started circulating on the internet. But you know what? There's 45 kids at John Henry School. I'm the only one over 40. And it's not that many people are as optimistic as I am to have a 5-year-old when they're 60 or so. But it's something in our environment, and we got to figure out what it is. Yeah. I think Roundup's a possible culprit. That doesn't sound paranoid to me because it's in almost everything. It's in our whole food chain from the ground up. So I'm looking pretty hard at Monsanto right now. So.
Yeah, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, and good luck with John Henry, because I know this is a big part of your time and your effort, and he's doing well. He's in a great school.
He's in a really good school, and he's like, he started riding his scooter all of a sudden by himself, which is a very big deal about a couple of weeks ago. And he kicks a soccer ball into the goal, goes to soccer on every Saturday, and he's really good looking. He looks like his mother, thank God, and he's got the school wired. He goes to school 40 hours a week, and at the end of the week, he starts getting tired. All he knows how to do is just, he gets tired of doing what task he's being presented. He just smiles really big and holds up his arms, and they pick him up. They're all girls, and he's got it wired. No doubt about it. So.
Yeah, I can see where he learned some of those skills. But Steve, great to have you back. Let's play some more music.
Yeah, this is the lightning thing right here.
Welcome back to eTown, Steve Earle.